you're always going to feel like the other is what you're responsible for, even though it's something that just came with you. It's never outwardly celebrated.
That was so well put. Sorry, just had to say that. Yeah, that was so good. Carry on.
Oh, good.
Welcome to How to Fail, the podcast that believes that most failures can teach us something meaningful. From an early age, Lashana Lynch's parents were convinced that she'd either end up doing something sporty or something creative. As it turned out, she's found a way to combine the two. Lynch is one of our stellar rising screen stars and often performs her own stunts. Her role as Maria Rambeau in the Marvel Cinematic Universe saw her learning how to fly a plane. In The Woman King, she spent 5 hours a day in the gym to look convincing while wielding a machete. In the Bond movie No Time to Die, she was taught how to arm, disarm and fire a gun when she played the only woman in the film franchise ever to have been given a license to kill. Lynch sang and danced as Mrs. Honey in the movie adaptation of Matilda, and earlier this year took on the role of Rita Marley in the Bob Marley biopic One Love. Now she returns to our screens as MI6 agent Bianca, starring opposite Eddie Redmayne in the Sky TV series of The Day of the Jackal, adapted from the eponymous novel by Frederick Forsyth. It is her strength that comes through in all her roles, not just physical, but emotional too. She was born in West London, raised by a social worker father and a housing manager mother who took cleaning jobs for extra money. Lynch's grandparents came to the UK from Jamaica as part of the Windrush generation, a heritage she mentioned in a moving speech when she accepted the 2022 Rising Star BAFTA. "I'm grateful," she said that night, "for a working-class foundation that has taught me everything I needed to know about failure, about no's, about what no's mean, and how to celebrate your yeses." Lashana Lynch, welcome to How to Fail.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that intro. Oh my gosh, I was like, a memory lane.
Good.
So nice.
You could not be a more perfect guest. When I watched that speech that you gave, accepting that Rising Star Award, I was like, yes, exactly that. It's about knowing how to cope with failure.
Yeah.
Knowing how to be resilient enough to bounce back from your no's.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your working class upbringing and why that gave you that ability.
I mean, resilience is the first word that comes to mind when it comes to just mustering up strength, confidence, willpower in order to do anything, even to get out of bed and to decide that I want to be great today or I want to inspire somebody to be great today. My background has informed how I look upon my future, the kind of legacy that I want to leave in the world, and not doing that with a weight, actually seeing that as a privilege. And I do believe that some people have heard me say that before and think, oh gosh, is it not a lot to want to, leave something big in the world? Is that not a big weight on your shoulders? But I see it as really, like I'd said in my BAFTA speech, like a real opportunity to honor those before me, and especially as closely as my parents or my grandparents who sacrificed way more than I've sacrificed in my life in order for me to have a good life. And I think that the more that people, especially from my background, hear that, they're able to, I don't know, just have an I can about their day-to-day life. Because it's not about the big thing that you're going for every day. It's about the increments of your life that are going to help create your story, essentially.
Well, I think we're done here. That was the most amazing answer. We've covered every point. Thank you. That was so good. It strikes me reading about you that there's a difference between money and worth in that you were clearly raised and embody such a sense of self-worth that is so impressive and calming to be around. And that's different from having had loads of money because your parents clearly worked very hard. That's why I thought it was important to mention in the introduction like, what they did for a living and how your mother worked around her day job to give you the things that you needed. Can you talk to me a bit about that, a bit about the importance of being raised with a sense of worth?
It's priceless. I don't know where it comes from. I really wish that there was like a family history book whereby like I get to learn about how that came into my into my line, especially my female line, on both sides of my family, because I feel like everyone I come across in my family they just have that thing. And it's not that they have it at the tip of their fingers all the time. They really have to dig for it sometimes, as do I. But there's just a knowing and a capability that I've been able to draw upon for me personally and for me in my career off the back of you can do this. Like, there's no question. It's not a question of if, it's a when and how, and it's a your choice. And once you get to a young age that you have a choice to do something, which not all children get to learn early, I appreciate, you just firm in your core. And I'm really grateful I had that, because it's informed a lot of my career decisions. It's informed a lot of my yeses and nos. And it's informed, like you mentioned, how you digest the no's, because they can be so painful sometimes, and they can be really hard hitting when you're in a good place. And my parents, especially with the jobs that they had, they're very, very community based. They're very my dad dealt with a lot of teenagers from different backgrounds. My mom dealt with a lot of elderly people from different backgrounds, and they were all within our community and all taught them something, and they were both able to come home and impart their experiences without putting them on us as children, which I imagine as a parent is a hard thing to do as well.
Yeah.
And a hard thing to watch your child digest as time goes on, because it's the real. Like, they didn't sugarcoat anything. They were like, this is what it is. But at the same time, by the way, my parents have like big taste. We shopped at Peter Jones and John Lewis and Waitrose, and like we had like everything we could imagine, because they're like thinkers and doers, which let me know that there's nothing that's impossible. I could wear Russell and Bromley shoes to high school and have everyone be like, wow, why are you not wearing like worse shoes because you're working class and like you don't have that much money? I'm like, no, but we're smart. We know how to utilize our resources, how to use our brains, and how to, unfortunately, appear as though things are better than they are, which down the line will give you hopefully an opportunity to remember that the things that are not good or not as they should be, to deal with them in-house also.
Right. Yes.
You know?
Yes, that the strength of presentation.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I always notice in your performances is you're thrown into what most people would find incredibly intimidating situations. James Bond franchise, like, facing a racist backlash because of your casting, becoming the only woman in that franchise to have a double O number. But I remember in 2015 seeing you on stage in Chichester.
Wow,
in Educating Rita. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you were incredible. And it was the first night. And Lenny Henry dried up on stage. He forgot his lines.
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me, I still remember it so vividly. You were brilliant. You were so calm, stayed in character, and made it seem like it was part of the scene. Now, to have that poise at that age, it sounds like that's where it comes from. That idea of presentation and like keeping your cool under pressure.
Yes. Gosh, I'm so happy that you saw that. That was one of my favorite plays. I loved it growing up, and I was so grateful to have played in that. And like it did allow me to remember grace, that just, it happens. It really does just happen to the best of us at the worst of times. And it was press night and it was high stakes. But I have two slices of training to fall back on: my childhood training and my upbringing, and my drama school training, which taught me to just carry on, always carry on, never let on that anything's wrong, because the audience may actually go with you if you continue this stream of what we're doing, what's happening, I don't know where I'm let's leave the stage because we need to find some help. But that was actually really like a turning point for me in my career and my life, to know that when you see your training in action and then you look back on it, you think, oh, actually the thing that I've always wanted to do, be strong enough and confident enough to just be, it worked. It really worked.
Fascinating. And I also wonder if that's why you're so good at playing special agents. Because not only did you play one in the James Bond movie, but you're now playing one in The Day of the Jackal, an MI6 agent called Bianca.
Yeah.
And she's such an interesting character because obviously she's incredibly good at her job, but it doesn't come without a cost or without a sense of slight, would it be fair to say, self-betrayal or vulnerability? Like she's kind of confused about why she's doing what she's doing sometimes whilst being very good at it. Is that what drew you to the role?
Like you said, I've been a member of MI6 before, and that was wonderful and changed my life in different ways. When I read this script, I thought, oh, this is a real nice opportunity to dive back into that world and explore how women of that, of that world, of that thinking, of that mind and experience come to be there, and how they handle the rest of life whilst being this quote unquote superhero that everyone sees them as being like, oh, they're very aloof and they travel a lot and they've got so much responsibility and they're highly skilled. But that doesn't come without questioning oneself, knowing how to use your vulnerability, balancing family and having a household, and also remembering who you are in your core. So I think that playing someone like her, who has so much to contend with, there's so many complications in her life and in her mental state, is really juicy. It's really interesting, but a really good character study. I rewatched it the other day and I was like, this is every woman I know in the workplace. Something's gone wrong, or they get a text or get a phone call, or their boss has said something that they don't want, or didn't get that promotion. And then they've had to kind of find something in themselves to anchor them in who they are. And it's just so hard. And we never get to really discuss it on screen. So I'm really glad that Bianca exists in that world, in a high-powered, very tense and a boiling environment whereby she can do both.
And we'll probably return to some of those themes later because it kind of plays into one of your failures. But before we get into your failures, I've got one more question.
Yes. What
is the favourite stunt or physical thing that you have ever learnt through a role to do?
It's great. It was so hard. In The Woman King, I did my own stunts entirely for the first time, maybe the last time ever because it was so hard. I had to run and jump and bear hug a man in the air. And as he turned to drop on the floor, I had to stay on him, turn around, land on my back, kind of roll past my back and land on my feet. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense, but that is some serious acrobatics.
It's insane. I'm not an acrobat, nor am I a gymnast I started ballets, finished very early. I played sports, didn't finish them all. I don't have the full equipment to have known how to do that, but I'm impressed that someone thought I could do that and that I eventually did do it. Because it goes back to the knowing that I can do something that allows me to even agree to do it. It's strange and it was terrifying at the beginning. But once I saw that I was safe and secure and that people have my best interests at heart, it just became such an empowering thing to do.
That's such an amazing metaphor for how I see failure, which is, it's not quite as challenging as jumping and meeting a man in a bear hug midair and then flipping over and landing on your feet. But it's that sense of once you've lived through something that was really challenging at the time, it gives you the strength and the self-confidence to look back and think, well, I withstood that, so I can probably withstand the next thing.
Yes.
And I think that that's such an empowering realization.
Yeah. It's forced me to be kind to myself when that doesn't happen, because I know that is something that can come because we're capable of anything as human beings. But if that isn't a part of who I am, or if I don't achieve that, if I fail at that sometimes, then that's okay, because I have had a string of muscle memories where that does happen. And then suddenly it doesn't. And it's jarring because I'm like, it's not what I do anymore. This is my routine. start this, I go through this process and this happens. So yeah, the art of being kind to yourself whilst finding those things that eventually become part of your character, it's a slow lesson.
And you're so right. There's a difference between doing your best and always achieving the best. Actually, it's the doing that's the important bit, but it's sometimes hard to remember.
Yes, definitely. And also, we always appear to be something that we're not, because we want to be more confident and, seem like we have it together, and just we have our outside of the house face, and then we have the inside the house face where we're like, what is going on?
Just a mess of neuroses.
Yeah, basically. But like, there's so many people who, if you actually allowed yourself to be like, I'm struggling here, are you feeling that too? They'd be like, God, yeah, me too. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I can exhale now and actually talk about it. So yeah, the art of talking as well is something that talking and sharing is something that I've learned to utilize over the years.
Let's get on to your failures. So your first failure is about your nan's bangle.
Oh, let me take a sip of water.
I know, I've never had a failure like this before, and it's so sad because it's so obviously a loss.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell us the story.
On the night of the London premiere for No Time to Die, which, because of the pandemic and everything that was happening in the world, that premiere had like been pushed by, it felt like 2 years.
Yeah, I remember. We were desperate for the Bond film.
Yeah. So it eventually come and it had all my friends and the family, and was so excited. I had a bangle of my nan's who passed away when I was 14. I was 34 at the time, literally 34 when this premiere took place. So I'd been wearing that bangle for 20 years straight. Like, even in school, I'd take it off for some sports and then put it back on again. Something in me told me to take it off. Took it off and put it by some jewelry that my stylist had set aside, and went to the premiere, had a great time. And then towards the end of the night, I was like, where's my bangle? Just had a pull on my gut. I was like, something's happening with my bangle. Let me just check where it is. So my makeup artist was coming in to the room to prep for me coming back to get ready for another thing. And I asked him to look, and he was like, can't see it anywhere. I'm going to keep looking until you get back. And I came back and saw his face, and I was like, seen it? And he was like, it's not anywhere. Let's look together. And we literally turned the room upside down, and it was not there. And I spent the rest of the evening going, well, it's gonna come back because it's my nan's bangle. I don't live without that. It's been 20 years. And it never came back. And it has been one of the most painful things to experience, having lost this person, and then having this one thing that keeps you. It's almost like a tick when you feel the thing, a ring or something. You feel so connected to that person because their energy is in this object, and now it's just not here. It was just a strange, sad experience.
I'm so sorry. I can feel the sadness.
Yeah.
And there are so many things I want to say. But first of all, I want to ask about your nan, because I'd love to know more about what she was like and how important she was to you growing up.
Yeah, highly. She was my second mum, really. I spent a lot of time there. She kind of part raised me with my parents and then her, and just being filled with a different age of wisdom at such a young age. She was traditional Jamaican, really funny but serious, came to England, at a young age with her children, and bought a townhouse in Shepherd's Bush, had a business, really made it, paid off her mortgage. It was all very, that's one of the examples of it is possible, because my nan had 3-4 stories in her house, and we didn't come from money. A lot of the things you see of me today, I believe is because of how she part raised me.
What was her name?
Gertrude.
Oh, what a great name.
I know. Gertie.
Gertie. So chic.
Good, I'm glad you think that.
There's such a sense of spiritual closeness and guidance here that I'm getting from Gertrude and your relationship with her.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you have probably thought this, that bangle was there for the journey to where you were always destined to be.
Yeah.
Which is on the red carpet, a James Bond film.
Yeah.
And then maybe she felt like, I've done this bit and she doesn't need me in the same way anymore.
It's so interesting that you say that, because one of my best friends said exactly that when I was going through that grieving process. And I didn't believe it until maybe a couple months down the line when I could finally talk about it without crying, that it's true. I feel like there was something that had cracked open at that time, that premiere or that film or that part of my life, or there was something that was being shed. You don't need to hold on to all of these things from the past, namely things that come with me, because one, I'm here all the time. She genuinely is. But also, this is what I feel like the message was. You've learned so much about who you are and who you need to be now that you don't need the safety net. Security, absolutely. But you don't need to feel, jolted when you don't sense the security net is there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Just before we move on to your next failure, looking back now on No Time to Die, because I imagine it was frenetic and surreal to go through, and then there's the delay of the pandemic, and that's a different level of stress. How do you feel about it now, that experience?
Oh, definitely proud and really, sometimes I see clips and like pictures and things and I'm like, gosh, that really happened. Yeah. Like that. So it's not like a pinch me moment, but it is like it just feels like its own isolated thing, because it is so huge and because, these films began when my nan was around and, my dad took me to the cinema a couple of times when I was a child to watch some of the early Bond movies, and just the character alone, which I didn't know when I was auditioning that Nomi was going to be 007, by the way.
Didn't you?
No. No,
How
I did
cool.
not know.
When did you find out?
When
you got the script?
Well, kind of, yeah. Yeah. It was still early on, but it wasn't upon getting the part. So it was, I look at it as this kind of moment with all of these things that helped me push past a part of myself in order to step into these massive shoes that actually ended up just being shoes.
Yes, they just were your shoes.
They're my shoes now. Yeah, or sandals or heels or whatever you want.
That.
Yeah.
Let's go on to your next failure. I'm actually going to reverse the order in which you gave them to me. I'm sorry. But because I want to give this one a fair chunk of time.
Yeah.
Your second failure is people-pleasing and not wanting to be the odd one out. As you put it, that has led to a fear of making a mistake or being judged for straying outside of those parameters. I think so many people will relate to this.
Yeah.
When did you first become aware of being a people-pleaser?
Between early teens and late teens. And it sounds like a long time, but actually that's... Secondary school always feels long, but it's actually not. It's like, it's just a few years and it feels like 10.
Yeah.
You feel like you're there forever.
Totally.
And I realized that whenever groups of people, friends or otherwise, were making decisions, I felt like I had to be a part of that decision. I couldn't be like, oh, actually, no, I don't think it should be pink. I think it should be yellow, because I would fear that people would be like, yellow? Why would you do that? And then I'd have to stand up for myself and stand by my decision, and it would have to be the right decision if that's what I'm choosing. And also I'd be standing alone. And that's scary, to just be here kind of on an island supporting yourself. That didn't make any sense to me. It also, like, in your teens, there's a pretense that you develop that means that you don't fully tell the truth. You kind of go around things to make things sound palatable and easy and comfortable for others. And I never want to make people uncomfortable. I always want people to have a lovely experience with me and be like, oh, that was a nice time had. But when and if that doesn't happen, I feel like I'm responsible for the person leaving in a different state that is not positive. Yeah, straying outside of those parameters is just really, it's always been really uncomfortable.
And how much of that do you think is about a culture that made you feel either too much or not enough? I suppose what I'm inelegantly asking is whether at that time in your life, race had a part to play. Because I remember reading about a ballet teacher who said something about your posture, and that is there an element there of you, teenage you, feeling like you have to overcompensate for already being what other people are making you feel is different?
I think that as a working class Black or melanated child in the UK, you're always going to feel like it doesn't happen very early on. It did for me because I started ballet at like 7, 8. You're always going to feel like the other is what you're responsible for, even though it's something that just came with you. It's never outwardly celebrated.
That was so well put. Sorry, just had to say that. Yeah, that was so good. Carry on.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not an easy responsibility if you have not been taught how to handle that. If you're the first generation in this country and your parents had different level of racism in their time, yours is what, 10, 15, hopefully around that time, hopefully not 2 years into your life. You're feeling the different, you're feeling the next generation's interpretation of what their racism is. Even your parents can't quite teach you how you should handle that racism, because racism changes like every day. Traumas land in different ways. And I think as a child, it wasn't just race, but I do look back on that story of the ballet teacher and think, oh, I really wish that was the story, but it was real life.
What does she do exactly?
It's all about posture and being upright. And I've always had good posture, and ballet like corrected that in a new way also. In order to have good posture, you have to tuck in your bum. And I noticed that she wasn't telling the other children who were young white girls to tuck in their bottoms in that way. And she just kept going on at me about not doing it right and that not being the way, and that you've got an issue. Why do you keep sticking your bum out like that? And I was like, I'm literally at this point, I'm concaved, like I don't know what else to do. And it was more than one lesson when I felt like she was singling me out for what I now know to be my beautiful body.
Yes.
Oh, I thought, no, I can't do that. I can't be in here anymore. I'm too aware of the thing that my parents don't even talk to me about. Like I don't think they could ever imagine that a ballet teacher, dance, freedom of expression in that way would lead to her having potentially an issue with her body. And I feel like if I didn't exit that situation then, I could have ended up really having some mental issues over my physical appearance.
And that's where your wisdom came in, the wisdom of Gertrude and the self-knowledge. Because obviously you're aware of this people-pleasing tendency now, but it must be very difficult in a profession that is geared up towards pleasing an audience, towards pleasing casting directors. How do you handle that? Is it sometimes difficult to find your voice in certain situations where you're being expected to be a certain way?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's a real challenge and a journey. I did decide that straight out of drama school, I didn't want to be typecast. I didn't want to be typecast for whatever that year said that anyone who looks like me should be, because I know it changes every time. And I could say in 2010, I don't want to be typecast, but in 2016, I'm going to be typecast as a thing that I've maybe forgotten about. So the pleasing, I think because I'd decided what I wanted from my career, which by the way is not where I am now. It's just like, I want a big varied career, there were some comments and conversations happening around me that didn't affect me as much as they could have because I'd made my own stance. But at the same time, you know that duck thing?
Yes.
When you're doing this underwater, it feels like I had to find a different layer of protection in order for me to not continuously think about not being the right one or enough or good for this or too tall or too curvy, or they don't want a black girl or they don't want a woman. You know, it has to be a man, even though the script is just so open and it could be either. I just developed a skin, but underneath, really, I was like, am I just not doing the industry thing? Is there something that I've not been taught at drama school or in my early years of my career that I should know by now to make sure that I'm like the good actor, the acceptable actor? No one speaks about that, but there is something about, you know, the industry that is accepting and not accepting. And it changes all the time and you don't really know what it's going to be when.
Yeah, and you don't want to be called a diva because you're a woman. You don't want to be seen as awkward in some way. But there's a very thin line between that and standing up for yourself in an entire culture that has been shaped by millennia of patriarchy that sees any woman who says anything that stands up for herself as being a bit awkward.
Yeah.
So difficult.
Yes, and also when you're a strong woman, it's like you are either expected to go even stronger or it's like frowned upon to be vulnerable and not really know what you're doing. There's like a happy medium that no one has created a barometer for that suddenly you should just understand. Because if you really speak up for yourself, which I have always found very terrifying, it's like, she's talking. What does that mean? And how is she feeling? Is there an issue? What's happening? I'm like, no, I'm just expressing that I would quite like a salad, not, and I don't eat meat. And like, do you know what I mean? There's just certain obvious things. But then when you're kind of in the back and you're sitting in your vulnerability more, I think that there is a confusion in that, like, but you're the strong one. You can't be strong and vulnerable at the same time. Like here, where we've hired you, you have to be poised and ready and rearing to go and excited. I'm like, I'm just not always that way.
And can I ask you, just because I'm interested, because you're so fascinating to listen to talking about racism and how it has different iterations and fluctuations and it becomes kind of more insidious and then you have to keep aware and calling it out. What were the typecasting conversations? Like, what were you being typecast as in 2010 as opposed to 2016? And
so there is a street girl typecasting that around that time was really popular, like the London street girl that like always talked in slang and was like lower class and uneducated and didn't have her dad around and kind of dropped out of school really early and lived in a bad area and didn't have any prospects in life. That was a casting that I saw float around, not necessarily just in my inbox, but I would hear friends say, oh, there's this character is like this. And I'd be like, that sounds awful to play. That's a lived experience, definitely. But to develop your career on that, I just didn't see it for myself.
Yeah.
If I played a character like that once, I would like to think that I could have some autonomy in what her prospects are going to be, how she feels about herself, showing her vulnerability, her pushing through something, there being some kind of triumph about her in the end. But I didn't have any control or power at the time. So there's no way to get a character like that and then think, oh, actually, I could turn it into this. Because it literally was what is on the page is what it's going to be. Now, I could see that and see it as a really exciting opportunity because you have all sorts of characters just like the ones I've described in movies over the last 10 years that actually are really inspiring, and they've got a story to tell, and they have reasoning behind their circumstances, and it's all very, it just makes sense. And it's like great filmmaking as well. The disparity is very, very wide.
It makes so much sense to me how intentional your choices have been in that respect. And that, again, is testament to your wisdom. It feels like you've always seen the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is so important for so many young girls growing up who can see you defy the typecast. And that's a beautiful thing. Leaving aside the fact that you're a great actor and you're so compelling to watch on screen, there's something about the roles that you choose that is so powerful. No question.
You.
Just wanted to say that.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm glad, because there's this thing that happens between you being conscious of what you're not choosing, conscious of what is coming into your inbox and what you choose to engage with. And then down the line, when you become more experienced and established, conscious of what you're choosing, because there's opportunities coming your way. One thing that I appreciate about myself is that I'm willing to have no money, not work for a long time, and have to just push and work in another industry in order to gain the thing that I think I deserved. So I worked for the NHS for a long time. I worked at a courtesy car company for a while. I worked in retail because I knew that the things that were coming were like, I just don't think I'm going to look back on that in 10 years and feel proud of myself.
That's so impressive. That's something I really struggle with. And it's taken me a lot longer, I think, to be more intentional with my no's, because it does feed into this people-pleasing thing of like, and also the freelance thing of, if I say no to this, maybe I'll never work again.
Yeah.
There might never be another offer.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been I'm still on the journey to say no. My no can be like, I'll think about it. Maybe I'll go on Thursday, but like, let's check in with me. But then when someone's like, so I'll see you on Thursday, I'm like, okay, I'll be there on Thursday, because it's my fault. I should have just said no and I didn't know how to. But the being intentional about where I want to be in my career and the choices I make, it also has to be backed up with being able to say no throughout that whole process. So if I choose to do a role, I have to have found some kind of autonomy within myself to continue the no's.
Yes.
Because there's like the choice, which is like, yes, I feel good. I've done that for myself. Great. But then you have to back it up every single day. And that's what I find really hard. So even though it seems impressive that I've been selective, I still have to have like cheerleaders behind me going like, you don't have to do that thing. It's okay. Like, just say you're uncomfortable. Just say you're not available. It's okay that you can't split your brain and be in two places at the same time. I'm like, but I must be in two countries at the same time. That doesn't make sense to me. I can't compute that, you know?
Yeah. So before we get on to your final failure, there must be one role that you are thinking, God, that would be my dream role. That's sort of what you're working towards. I feel like you'd be a good Joan of Arc. Just going to put that out there. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Note that.
Thank you, industry. Yeah. It has already been done and no one else can do it. Literally. People, Places and Things. Have you seen it? Okay.
Yes.
That's her role.
Denise Gough, one of the best
role.
Performances I've ever seen on stage.
Ever. Like it's hers. She's just revived it. It's don't touch it. For me, don't ever touch that again. It's been on twice. Great. 2 countries. Fantastic. Those kinds of roles that are complicated and ugly and like deal with mental health and deal with like sense of self and the loss of that. And the grieving of yourself and how your choices affect your family and your environment. That is actually a dream role of mine. Not like anything glamorous or beautiful or quote unquote sexy, whatever that even means. Just something that is like really dealing with the grit of being a human being, because a lot of the things I've done have been quite slick. You know, whether it be a superhero or an agent, they're all very slick.
Yes.
And I'm now in the process through The Day of the Jackal in finding characters that appear slick but have something going on underneath that they're contending with. I find that really interesting.
Yeah. And I think the other great thing about Denise Gough's performance is that it has the courage to be unlikable, but ultimately as an audience, you end up rooting for and loving the character.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes. It's so hard as a woman
Yes.
in the industry to be unlikable,
Yes.
but then still have people cheer for you at the end. And not cheer as an applaud, but like want to support you, want to see you do better. That kind of character is just... the fact that they've achieved that and still have an audience that keep coming every night is like, it's beyond me, actually. So I hope that there can be more roles like that for women that just show us that we just don't have to have all the answers. It's boring and it's impossible as well.
I love that was your answer. And I went to see that on the recommendation of a former guest on How to Fail, Dan Levy. So we're in good company.
I love him.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, good. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay. Your final failure, which made me laugh because I wondered how long it had taken you to come up with this failure. From a young age, I procrastinated in my quest to work on my procrastination. Still procrastinating with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I procrastinated with getting that answer about procrastination.
What do you procrastinate over? Is it everything or is it...
Everything. Okay. Like, what it feels like everything to me. It's like the small things that amount to really big things. So being given 6 months to do something or even a month to achieve something and then waiting to the last minute and being like, I don't have any time. You've given me 24 hours to sort this thing and I've got to use my whole day. I've got to cancel everything. But then also at the back of that being like, I achieved it though. Fantastic. Great. Okay, good. I'm all right. I didn't do too bad.
Do you think it's actually part of your creative process that you need to impose the freneticism of a deadline in order to get your best work out?
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you know?
I don't know. I just got a vibe.
Literally that. It took me years to understand that is a thing. But because I struggled with it, I've just had to learn to appreciate that it is a part of my process and that it has brought me here, even if people don't see or understand that part. And I don't talk about it much either. I don't talk widely about how I forgot to do this thing or it slipped my mind or just I keep putting it off. And, you know, the forms are there or the script is there or the emails are there, but I'm just going to get to it later. And then sending a really slick response or the form being perfectly filled out or the essay being perfectly written. It always appears as though it's been great on the other side. And I've used that 6 months to get to that result.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the duck paddling underwater again, but serene on the surface.
Yes.
But do you procrastinate about things like what to wear in the mornings or what restaurants to go to? What are you going to eat tonight? Like that kind of stuff.
Okay. For example, what to wear in the mornings. These are such good questions. Okay. I literally would figure out the night before, sometimes even lay out the night before, this jacket, even the underwear, socks, put it all together just so I can have the speedy get out of the shower, get ready, and I'm done, ready to go. Because I'm like a stickler for time. So I always want to be on time. I always want to make sure that things we're utilizing time, etc. But restaurants, what to do this evening, what to watch, I can spend an hour flicking and then just be like, well, I guess I'm just not doing anything this evening because I don't know what to watch. Maybe
it's a struggle because you can't watch anything as good as the things that you're in. Which brings us to our conclusion, because I'm aware of time management and I know how important it is for you and you've got to leave. But I cannot recommend, if you're listening to this and procrastinating about what to watch tonight, The Day of the Jackal is riveting. It's like a modern day Born Identity, but even better.
Yes.
Lashana Lynch, I have loved this conversation so much.
Oh, good.
Thank you for turning up in your full power. And it's just been a really great exchange of thoughts. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on How to Fail.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Please do follow How to Fail to get new episodes as they land on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please tell all your friends. This is an Elizabeth Day and Sony Music Entertainment original podcast. Thank you so much for listening.